to order. It's Monday, September 14th, 7:07. We are in conference room C of the administration building, 12121 West North Avenue. We'll begin, please, with a moment of silent reflection. Mrs. Galante, please.
Mr. Bodden?
Here.
Mrs. Casey?
Here.
Mrs. Fee?
Here.
Mr. Croner?
Here.
Mr. Meyer?
Here.
Mrs. Muehlfeld?
Here.
Mrs. Randall?
Here. Thank you. We'll begin with public comment on non-agenda items. If there are any items on tonight's agenda that anybody would like to speak about, this would be your opportunity. The members of the Wauwatosa School Board value the input of students, parents, staff members, and community members. The board's regularly scheduled meetings provide an opportunity for opinions and concerns to be expressed publicly. The board values all comments and will respectfully consider this input in decision-making. The board requests that individuals limit their comment on each item to 3 minutes. Following any comment, an individual board member may respond on the issue raised. However, it is not the intent of the public comment portion of the agenda for the board to enter into a debate with a member or members of the community. Because non-agenda items are not publicly posted in advance, no action will be taken on public comment regarding non-agenda items this evening. Is there any public comment on non-agenda items? Okay, seeing none, we will move to approval of the consent agenda. Are there any items on the consent agenda which board members would like to remove for separate discussion or action? Okay. Seeing none, may I have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
Move to approve.
Thank you.
Second.
Thank you, Mrs. Casey. Is there any community comment on the consent agenda? Seeing none, Mrs. Galante, please.
Mr. Bodden?
Yes.
Mrs. Casey?
Yes.
Mrs. Fee?
Yes.
Mr. Croner?
Yes.
Mr. Meyer?
Yes.
Mrs. Muehlfeld?
Yes.
Mrs. Randall?
Yes, thank you. Our reports portion of the agenda, the Teaching and Learning Department, there'll be a summer school report. Dr. Ertl?
Thank you. This evening, Mr. Anderson is here. He's going to give an update on our summer school program, our wildly successful summer school program. Mr. Anderson?
Good evening, and thank you. Thank you for inviting me to share about our wonderful summer school program with not only you, but also the community. So here's just a really short snapshot, a little bit of the work we've done over the last 3 years, and so that's the emphasis of what I want to share with you in the community tonight. I think it's really important that we start out by just kind of looking at our vision and our mission and our goals. Again, united with parents and community, the Wauwatosa School District delivers an outstanding education that equips and inspires our students to conquer their challenges now and in the future. That holds true to what we do within summer school. And again, our vision of providing all students a successful pathway in our surrounding community with summer learning is really our vision. And our goal is really just continuous improvement, both academically, professionally, personally, and again, in every aspect we do in summer school. Little technical difficulties. We'll work through it. Okay. All right. So looking at our enrollments over the last 3 years, roughly about, it's pretty consistent, about 3,700 in 2013, 3,500 in 2014, and about, 3,600 this past summer. If we're looking at total enrollment in terms of our pupil minutes, about 10 million minutes in 2013, 12 million, almost 13 million minutes in 2014. And this past year we were over 13 million minutes. So if that equated to look at our full-time equivalency, what we actually use for our state report, looking at internally, for residents, about 210 in 2013 and 39 for, again, non-resident. 266 in 2014 for resident and 22 for non-resident. 270 this past year and 16 non-resident. So if we look at our total FTE for the past 3 years. In 2013, we were down. 2014, we were up, and around this past year, we're about the same. So looking at staffing has remained fairly similar over the last 3 years because our consistency of our attendance has been fairly similar. Some of the improvements we've been looking at over the last 3 years, clearly we've really strived to improve our customer service. That was one big thing that we've worked on. Customer service in partnership with our Wauwatosa Recreation Department for our K-7 programming has been a real big step for us. Working with Mike Wick and the Wauwatosa Rec Department has been a really wonderful challenge and experience. In terms of our high school, again, looking at all of our registration with our guidance departments, so our students register for their summer classes during their typical registration sign up in spring. In terms of logistics and daily operations, we've expanded our summer school offices in the last 4 years, again, looking at service, point of contact, East High School, Lincoln, West Eisenhower, and we have a middle school, because now we're reusing middle school buildings. In terms of safety and really attendance of our students, we started utilizing PowerSchool 3 years ago, and we continue to do that because our utmost focus is knowing where our students are at all times. So in terms of programming, some of the things we did at the elementary level, we separated out our K4 or our K experience, and our K experience was almost like a homeroom at one point. So feedback we got from parents was they were looking for more of a 3-hour block where they were working with one teacher, similar to what we had experienced in our normal classrooms. So we tried it out in 2013, had success, and then last year added first and second grade experience. So parents do have a 3-hour window that they have the same teacher, and kids don't have to move around the building for our younger individuals. In terms of some elementary programming, we've added STEM Exploration 1-2, STEM Exploration 3-4, and those are grades 3-4 and grades 1-2. Beginning ukulele and intermediate ukulele. We've updated our reading workshop curriculum, and our reading specialists worked really hard over this past spring to help us do that. And we introduced a course, 21st Century Reading, that also looks at using technology within the classroom. We currently have 5 pilots at our elementary schools where actually the schools are really looking to target their most needy K and K1 students, both in reading and math. As I said earlier, we're also using Longfellow and Whitman. We started to use them last year fully to work with our incoming 9th graders who were going into oral communication in Phi Ed. And so that's been a really big success. Of course, logistically, there's been some hiccups when we have to, again, adjust for building schedules and maintenance, those kind of things. Beginning band blast off has been, we moved to a new campus this year over at Longfellow, and last year our numbers were around 190. This past summer we were well over 200. So it's another stellar program and a lot of great feedback from parents on that. In terms of staffing, we've really worked at trying to manage the quality of our staff. We've done that really through, again, the hiring process. So roughly, and I'll talk a little bit more, but roughly about 50% of our teachers, a little bit more than that, are our teachers that we utilize from our current district, and about 50 or 54%, below 50% are from outside the district. We have aligned our hiring practices with HR, so we've been working with HR to not to duplicate what we do, but to utilize what we do and maybe condense it and streamline. We've looked at, again, working with the business office to refine our kind of business needs in terms of our financials and how we budget. We've also are trying to connect in terms of what our services are and how we communicate between HR and business. so that our practices that we do kind of mirror what we do during the school year, so that everybody kind of understands all the ancillary parts to what they do behind the scenes, particularly for payroll, when payroll comes in. And again, we have about 400 staff members that we have timesheets for. So if we have a similar process to how we process things during the school year, again, we run into less issues. And then we've provided our buildings with building deans to help with day-to-day operations and to meet student and parent needs. And again, our emphasis within the buildings have been on safety and then knowing where our students are at all times. So a little bit on personnel trends over the last 3 years. Again, it's been roughly about 50 to 60% are our teachers that are stepping forward and being part of summer school, and about, again, 40 to 50% that are external. This past summer, we had 42 new employees. In terms of our course materials and logistics behind that, again, we store most of our summer school materials at East. We've really worked hard to cut back on all the materials. We try to centralize in terms of some of the consumables that we use in our district, or not in our district office, excuse me, but in our building offices, so that we can consolidate and financially produce what teachers need in a timely manner. We do yearly updates to our inventories, but that's probably one of our biggest logistical hurdles and challenge. But again, when you're running all the courses and you have 3,600 students, we're getting better at what we do. In terms of curriculum, 3 years ago we moved to having our curriculum online and in a PDF format. So it wasn't virtual, but it was on a PDF format. So we have probably about 60% of that done. Of course, when you're updating curriculum, you're always updating your PDF files, and so keeping the files straight, those kind of things is really important. Some of the things that we have actually accomplished, we've created some online courses and looked at some hybrid courses, and those are very successful at this time. So looking at some challenges that we face, well, clearly we know we need to get better at communication, how we communicate student schedules, how we communicate with parents on what's being offered and when students should sign up, and the whole process around summer school. It's well attended, but we want to ensure, again, that all of our parents in the community know how to access and actually take part in our summer school programming. We, again, have some logistics around Power School in terms of using a separate server. We have to keep our summer school clientele separate from our regular Power School database, and that poses some constraints on us in terms of how we manage that data and work with it. Another piece that challenges us is working with building grounds and projects. So this year was a very busy summer, as all you know. We've had a lot of construction and pieces going on, so we work through that, and it's always a variable that we have to adjust to every summer. And then this year, building cleaning and maintenance, that continues to go on, and when we, again, use our buildings the way we are with the number of students, again, we all take a deep breath, we pause, and we work together as a team. And of course, looking forward, next summer, we'll be working with some more zoo interchange adjustments based on our work over on the west side. But that's all opportunity. So what are the big takeaways? I think the big takeaways are, summer school is a highly complex system. Half of our community attends summer school. I mean, it's an amazing fact. It's a huge benefit to our community, not only financially, but also program-wise, for all the things that we do offer from kindergarten all the way to high school. It really creates almost this idea of a year-round school, provides that third semester. Again, that's why we continually have worked on that continuous improvement, making it better year in, year out. So we are a destination community, and I believe that summer school is part of that, part of the reason why we're a destination school district. And again, the recreation department and the partnership that we have with them, it's priceless. Family seeking opportunities for that year-round type of student programming, I don't know of any other community that does it like we do. So kudos to the Wauwatosa School District and Wauwatosa Recreation Department. And then just continued successive improvement. I mean, we've come a long way. We do a lot of programming, and every year there's just different obstacles that we face. But again, it's how are we going to adapt and overcome, because things do happen. And I kind of equate summer school in a way, kind of like setting up a field hospital within a hospital. So you set it up, you get it rolling. There's a lot of behind the scenes planning that takes place all year round. But then it's game day, and you have about 45 days to complete that instruction. And it's in half days, and we collaborate with the recreation department. So it's very fulfilling I believe, for our community, and for getting our new teachers involved and engaged. Questions?
Board members? Ann?
Thank you. Thank you very much for the report. I know it's a lot of work putting on this program, and you said it, we really do have a voluntary year-round school because of all the work that you and the staff do, and so we appreciate that very much. I do have a question about the targeting of the younger students who might be struggling, and I'm sorry, I should have warned you I was going to ask this, so
Nope.
if you don't know the answer
It's
now,
okay.
I'm happy to hear it later. Do we know how successful we are at getting those targeted students actually into the building for the summer? For instance, if a teacher says, I have these 10 students, how many of those 10 actually make it into summer school? Do we know that?
Yeah, that's the data we haven't tracked. We haven't looked at what students that those piloting schools have looked at, and then who they actually have gotten in. We are tracking the data of our students as they progress to see how their spring or their fall MAP score pans out as opposed to their spring MAP score. We do have a small pool sample right now, so we're hoping now, after this is going on to 2 years with having 5 schools, that we have enough data to actually say we're making impact. Again, we're trying to lessen that summer slide, if anything. Certainly, we want to see our kids grow. That's our goal.
I just want to add to that the reading specialists that ran those programs in the buildings this summer did track their data. They could probably give us a better idea of how many students didn't attend that they had invited into those programs at the local school. So that's something that we would have access to that information. And I know they also track the data for the students that do participate in the program. So we can probably look at that and try to get
I'm
you
sure
more
that it
information.
would be nothing but beneficial to have them in there. It's just a question of, did we actually get them in the door? And that's what I was curious about, so.
Yeah.
We'll get
Thank
that. We'll get that for you.
Thank you.
Other board members? Mr. Croner?
Thank you. Mrs. Fee asked a couple of questions I was going to ask. I'm particularly interested in struggling readers and kids that are struggling in math as well. And I think the summer school program is really a jewel in our community. But I also think this is a perfect time where we could target those students. And what I was going to ask, or suggest, and what I would like to see is that we use summer school as a place to target as many students as possible in the reading programs that are struggling. And I think opening up classes in their neighborhood schools is a really, really good idea and might be a way to get even more students in. And I'm glad to see that you're tracking how they're doing, whether it's having an effect as well. And I think another thing to consider is that the summer school might be a perfect laboratory for innovation, that it's a place where you can try out programs over a shorter period of time without disrupting the regular classrooms during the school year, to see if maybe you can identify a few programs that are particularly effective with the students that we have. So I'm glad to see the expansion for the struggling students. I know the whole program is really strong, but I think if literacy is our focus as a district, summer school might be a really, really good place to have a really big impact in that area. So thank you for presenting tonight.
Mrs. Mufeld, please.
Thank you. Well, I think we do an amazing job in a short period of time, and I saw that you have takeaways and what can we do to help you up there. What is the most important thing we can do to help you as a board going into next year as you're planning?
That's a great question, and I would say continue the support. I think you've been very supportive. Again, Phil also, just in looking at pushing the boundaries and looking just at our pilots that we've been doing. we're trying to target those students in their classrooms, in their schools where they feel comfortable, teachers know who their kids are, those kind of things. So I think it's just continued support that you've been already providing as a board, knowing that there is just a really great, community response to this program.
For technology, you were kind of talking about, maybe we could present our curriculum a little more fluidly, and maybe Ms. Ehrenberger can talk about some of the things we're doing there, but it sounds like keeping manual binders and that is taking up a lot of time that we could probably be using, for
Yeah.
other things, and if we could figure that, some of those things out too, that would be helpful for you.
Yeah, and that's kind of where we are. How much resources you want to put into that piece. You want to make it relevant. You want it to mirror our curriculum in the district. But then we do have some courses where you're kind of pushing the envelope for students, and it is an opportunity for them to explore. So, we're working on that. We're trying to refine that process, but it's a balance, and we're looking at different ways of providing other pathways that are hybrid type opportunities for high school students, and really looking at competency-based makeups and different type of exploration at the high school. We kind of had a meeting today. We started talking about those things. So,
Well, again, if there's investments we need to make or other system changes we need to make to allow that, certainly, I would like to hear that. I remember all of the carts and all of the bins and all the,
still got them.
This is, I know, it's
We've
just
cut
a
down,
major
we've cut down.
undertaking, and I know
Yeah.
that the students and the parents, even though they may not realize all that goes behind this very short, concentrated, programming for the 8 weeks, 10 weeks that we're doing it, it's phenomenal.
Can I just say that two of the things that came out of the meeting that we had that I think were higher leverage were that the more we can attract our teachers to summer school, the quality for us improves, and the quality of the curriculum and the curriculum delivery, because we'd have more teachers to be able to even help some of those other teachers from other districts who do a good job. We certainly have systems in place if they don't, to not have them return, but the other thing is that in summer, to be able to have some flexibility with how we deliver some of our courses, so that it's not exactly like the school year, because the time frame is 6 weeks. It's a different, we're dealing with something different in that respect. And the discussion was, is there the ability to have flexibility to be able to do that, so that we can possibly look at delivering something more project-based, but still have those benchmarks, so that some of our teachers would like to teach some courses that aren't necessarily in our course catalog, but our students aren't going to be interested in taking them unless we attach credit to it. So some of those kind of dilemmas are where I think we could try to provide more incentives and attract more of our own teachers into the summer school experience for kids.
Thank you. Mr. Meyer, please.
Just to clarification for those who may be new to this conversation out in the parent community. The summer school many years ago was a remedial program, but since Dr. Ertl came here, it's become a full spectrum offering, and obviously there's benefits for struggling students to continue through the summer, but there are also offerings for the, shall we say, competitive student as well, to have a change of pace or to maybe fill in a class that can open up their schedule for other things. Is that, accurate to
Yeah,
portray
absolutely.
this like that?
It is. Summer school was the focus when I got involved, when Dr. Ertl said, here's an opportunity. And working with Beth, it was really about remediation. Now it's about acceleration, it's about exploration. We're trying to run the gamut for all of the needs, and it becomes a little complex to do that, but I have to say we've done a heck of a job to provide all spectrum of learners just with support and that opportunity.
So about everybody, for everybody.
Yes.
And everybody will
Mhm.
benefit who participates, whether you're struggling or whether you're, the star, whatever, in some capacity or not. So I'd encourage all families to investigate the opportunities.
Yep, we had 23 students participate in accelerated geometry. It was 5 hours a day for 6 weeks. That's some acceleration.
And you math stars, you understand why you'd want to do that, and I
Mhm.
may have wanted to in the day as well, but
So,
Okay. Mrs. Casey?
I'd like to thank you for the update and for your continued work, because I know that this is administratively a huge undertaking. And personally, I like to speak to it. My son took oral comm and PE this summer, and I thought for sure there's going to be fights, about getting up, and they got up every day and went, and they had fun, and there was a lot of rigor. We gym for 2.5 hours, and they were exhausted, but then they kind of kept their day going, and they would, kind of get together. And I thought that was great because they, would usually sleep in so late. And the other takeaway for me as a mom was just how serious and strategic they were about the 3 days that they could miss. we had a family friend and they were going to Door County, and they're so stressed about it. So he stayed with us for 2 days, and then there was an overnight at someone's lake home, and they're like, but I haven't used any of my days yet. I've been saving it for this. So that was kind of fun. But they took that very seriously.
yeah. Learning to, we have conversations around that whole 3-day limit, and
I think it's good. They did not want to take it or not
it is,
count
it is, and it's,
Yeah, don't
and
say
sometimes
anymore.
there's just
It's good.
circumstances where your heart just breaks for somebody who's going to an opportunity to, travel abroad or whatever, and it's trade-offs, so. We are gonna work through that a little bit and see if we can come up with some solutions for hybrids and other type of courses, so.
It was a really
through that.
positive, good experience.
Yeah.
While it's nice to have kids understand the expectations they need to be there in class, I think the concern I have about it is talks more about seat time versus learning. So I think that's that balance we have to strike about how you learn, when you learn, and so that was part of our conversation, so it happened to be on the tip of my tongue. I think one of the other challenges I'll just put out there that I think when Bill started in this role, we had maybe 10 kids in the Montessori school. So Bill is the principal of the Montessori school. The Montessori school is 130.
150.
I missed 20.
That's all right.
150 students, so that role has taken up a lot more time, and as we continue to try to grow and be innovative in summer school, I have to take a look at, and it's not that Bill hasn't done a great job with summer school, but look at how we're gonna handle the administrative load that goes with it, so it's one of those things that I'll be looking at in the near future.
Thank you. Anyone else? Mr. Budden?
Thank you for your service to the district and this great report. I know you put in a lot of hours, and I also thank you for the tour that you gave me this summer. Question, regarding specificity of our high school students that aren't passing courses. For instance, English 9. Are they still required to take the entire, I think we've had part of this discussion during the summer, but take the entire English 9, this is the whole thing, or are we breaking this down into missing pieces of their learning? You know what I'm asking?
Yeah, we've been for those remediation courses in math and in English, we've been breaking it down for them. So it's not about how much time they're taking, it's actually trying to understand what their missing competencies are, and actually then trying to load what they need, each student individually, and then providing them with a pathway to complete that successfully.
So are there time constraints in that too, or can these kids, like, once they've demonstrated?
Yes, once they demonstrated success in the areas of weaknesses that we've identified, and they shore it up and show that they've mastered that piece, then they're good. They've made up their credits, and they don't have to attend. So We had a student this past summer that I think was finished in 2 weeks, and trying to make up a course. So it provides some flexibility for our students.
So have you seen more kids being able to, you know, as far as the success ratio versus keeping them there for 6 weeks versus, so to speak, individualizing, you know,
Yeah,
what I'm asking, individualizing their learning?
I think we see students that they see it more doable. Like, you know what, I can do this. This isn't like I have to sit there for another 6 weeks and 2.5 hours a day and go through everything that maybe I already know. So from that standpoint, yeah, I think we've seen success from the students and their attitudes to sign up and participate, show up.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Thank you very much. I had a couple of questions. Could either you or maybe Mrs. Ehrenberger talk a little bit more about the elementary school pilots? I know we've always had the reading and math workshops that classroom teachers during the year have identified kids and tried to get them to go to those summer school. How is this different? What's happening that's different?
What's different is that in the past, we only had 2 campuses, Lincoln and Eisenhower. So as a result of trying to attract more of our students that we really wanted to be able to provide some direct instruction for, the reading specialists in each school considered students that they wanted to bring into a summer program. And so we're looking at removing a barrier and getting them to the neighborhood school. So we had 6 schools this year that participated. Was it 6?
5 schools.
5, okay. So in the past it was 2. So we have 3 campuses open, but the students are invited in, personally invited in. I know that the reading specialists in those buildings work really hard to get students there, sometimes, going very much out of their way to try to remove every obstacle to them being able to attend. So it's a way to target students that we really want to maximize the time in the summer to help them. And that hadn't been happening in the past. The students were just sent to the 2 campuses.
Right.
And sometimes could get lost in that shuffle, and we didn't know what kind of course they were taking or not, and sometimes the courses would get dropped because of enrollment, so we just became much more targeted. And then we can also we know what kind of instruction they're getting, and we can follow the data on them at the building level. So, and there's a lot of investment because the reading specialists see it as an opportunity for them to maximize that time. So during the school year, those kids come in a completely different place, and it helps maximize their time, what they do during the school year as well, that they have, move students rather than just depending on the school year to do it. So.
Okay. Thank you. That's really great because, like I said, I know that's been the struggle. We've always been able to find the kids, but to get them there hasn't worked so well. So that's great to know. Mr. Anderson, how do you get parent feedback? Do you get it during the course of the summer, or do you get it after? And
Yeah,
what do you do
I haven't
with
done
it?
a parent feedback survey. It's something we could do. Normally I'm out and about and I do ask questions. Parents call me. So usually it's how I kind of get feedback. And I talk to my deans too, what they see, what they're having, or what they're hearing. So.
In the past, wasn't there like a survey, saying positives and negatives? What kind of courses do you want?
Yeah, the
that
rec
we can
department
offer,
used to do some surveying, and we actually haven't done surveying with all of our parents probably now for 3 years. So we'll probably do for maybe a survey. And
Well, I mean, it's still growing,
Yeah.
but might get some good ideas.
yeah, good feedback.
For some new things, yeah. All right, I have kind of a hard question.
Okay.
That accelerated course and other AP courses or required courses, how are we doing the grading for those?
In summer?
Yeah.
Yep. This year we, for all of our high school classes, we again did grading for learning.
You did.
So it was a big endeavor for us.
Okay.
We had training for, of course, our teachers that were in-house teachers that they've kind of been doing that training along the way. But for external teachers, we had support for them. We had some workshops for them. providing them with some guidance. We had mentors. So all in all, I think it worked out pretty well.
Excellent.
You know, anytime you implement something new that's.
Well, right.
And
You
Dave
know.
Dettinger did the training for
Yeah.
the summer school teachers on that. So it was provided by our department to the summer school teachers that were grading courses that was applicable to.
Okay. Yeah, I didn't know that you could condense it. So obviously you can. Awesome. That's great. I had one other thing, but I can't remember, so I guess I'm done. Oh, Mrs. Ehrenberger, how do we get our teachers to come? Do we have to pay them more, or?
How would we attract our teachers?
Our teachers.
Well, that's a conversation we're gonna have to see, like, if there's some things that make, some of it could be, possibly it could be paying our teachers more than we pay external teachers. It also could be as simple as providing some kind of incentives that, you know, are maybe not very costly, but just some, you know, thinking through what those might be, finding out what teachers think that they might be. It also could relate to having the teachers be allowed to be a little more creative and innovative in the summer than maybe, not that we wouldn't want them to be that way during the school year, but it's a different
Yeah.
time frame and a larger
Right.
block of time. So
Right.
being able to like operate in that venue differently than they have. So that's part of one of the things we want to find out, because we'd like to see if there is something that would make it more motivational for our teachers to be attracted to doing it.
Okay, thank you very much. Obviously, you've thought about it, so that's good.
And may I,
Mr. Meyer,
please, one additional plug for summer band. It is an immense aid to the young musician to avoid taking those 2-3 months off. The progression, similar to reading, is with the instrumental capabilities that it's that fun incentive to keep practicing after all those lessons the parents take you to and all those practices and such, that your skills don't deteriorate over the summer and be a far more enjoyable band experience in the fall.
And we have summer jazz.
Summer jazz, and I'll say we fought to have summer band 10 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Yeah.
And it's very successful.
yes,
excellent.
And orchestra.
as well. Very
Yeah.
good.
Mr. Budden,
I know this was on your PowerPoint, but maybe Mr. Mack, do you know what the budget is for the program? Roughly what we spend as a district?
Roughly about $900,000 with, you know, all the ancillary and salaries.
And do we, Mr. Mack, do we have an idea with what the community gets back as far as taxes?
You mean, you wanna know about the financial picture of the whole
Yeah,
program?
It doesn't have to be now, but I'm just,
Well, in
because
general,
that's a huge plus as far as.
it's a huge plus, and it's actually a huge plus for the taxpayers because of where we sit in the equalization aid formula. But under the revenue cap, summer school with the residents that it's bringing in, we spend up close to $1 million in summer school, and we bring in about $1 million. It's a little bit over. Sometimes it fluctuates from year to year just a little bit because the fiscal year and summer school year overlap. But we pretty much break even. We could maybe go up a little bit more. But from a taxation standpoint, I plugged the numbers, and if I took out the revenues and expenses from summer school and take out the 270 FTE, taxes go up $4 million because of where we sit in the equalization aid formula, because we're right on the edge of going into negative tertiary aid. And when you think about it, at 270 more, that the equalized value was spread out over per member, so it helps taxes tremendously by having the summer school. Just from that point alone, it's worth it for the taxpayer. So you're providing the community service. You're helping the kids with furthering their interests in education, and you're helping the taxpayers all at the same time.
Thank you.
Mr. Mack, that's $4 million of tax savings, is that correct?
Yeah,
this year?
$4 million.
great. Thank you. Is there any community comment on this report? Okay, seeing none, we'll move on to superintendent's report. Dr. Ertl, please.
Thank you. This year at the opening day event, we had 13 employees that were recognized by the school board for distinguished service and received the Distinguished Service Award, presented by a number of the school board members that are here as well. Those are presented for exemplary service and dedication. They were nominated by staff members, parents, and students, and reviewed by the school board's Human Resources Committee. And the following were recognized on that day. Karen Ave, a German teacher from West and Whitman. John Balsaric, an English teacher at East. Liz Buttrin, an SK teacher at Madison. Tony Carter, educational assistant for special education at Washington. Eric Dale, English teacher and coach at East. Jeff Gabrielson, the athletic director at West. Chris Lazarski, a social studies teacher at West. Sue Long, an educational assistant in the office at Jefferson. Jenny O'Dow, elementary library media services coordinator. Deb Sellers, a physical education teacher at Underwood. Jane Stortz, library media specialist at Whitman. Lisa Wynn, an educational assistant for special education at Lincoln. And Amy Whitteman, a third grade teacher at Lincoln. So congratulations to all of them, and best wishes for a great year.
Okay, thank you. And that was a wonderful opening day. All these people got great rounds of applause and were recognized by their peers, so. Is there any community comment on this portion? Okay. Any community comment on non-agenda items this evening? Okay, seeing none, may I have a motion to adjourn the regular school board meeting and reconvene into an executive session to discuss the superintendent's evaluation and administrative contracts in conference room A. Statutory exemption to Wisconsin open meetings law is contained in section 1985 1C.
So moved.
Thank you, Mr. Meyer.
Second.
Mrs. Fee and Mrs. Galante, please.
Mr. Bodden?
Yes.
Mrs. Casey?
Yes.
Mrs. Fee?
Yes.
Mr. Croner?
Yes.
Mr. Meyer?
Yes.
Mrs. Muehlfeld?
Yes.
Mrs. Randall?
Yes, we're adjourned, 8 o'clock, please, in conference room A.